Well, look at this. First actual video of 2025, first helmet of 2025, and the first video in my new, still under construction studio in my new house. Let's get into this. All right, welcome to another episode of Paul's Collectibles. It's good to have you. Thanks for joining me as always. And today we're right back to talking about my favorite thing in the whole world as far as Star Wars collectibles goes, and that is full-size Star Wars helmets. And this time we have the Hasbro Black Series, the Armorer helmet. Now this character had a great arc throughout the Mandalorian series, and in season 3 actually had some questionable motives, and we were all trying to figure out just exactly what she might be up to. Now the character is played by the wonderful and talented Emily Swallow, and I'm really excited to get a look at this helmet because it's kind of different than most of the other helmets that we've been getting from the Black Series. So with that, let's take a look at it. And as always, we'll start with the package, and there's nothing really surprising here. They're still using that 5-sided box. You got a picture of the helmet here, and when you come around, you've got some schematics and picture of the helmet there. And then when you come around here, there is something interesting, and although I don't normally mess with the electronics on these helmets, I may try this one out just to show you what it is, because it says this one has, and I quote, an interior welcome light effects. A welcome light, okay, and it shows it's up inside the helmet, and you get like an interior view of the helmet, which you don't normally get on these boxes. And then of course, this side view of the helmet with some schematics, and that Black Series insert that we all know so well. But let's get this out of the box in front of some lights and take a look at it. Okay, here she is out of the box, looking good, and I'll show you a quick little secret. As usual, these helmets come with a head rig inside, but it's usually too small for me, so it has these little notches on either side where you can just pop it right out, and if you want to, you can just pop it right back in. That way, in case this doesn't get big enough for your head, you can take it out and you can put your own padding inside the helmet if you want to wear it. For me, it's also easier to display without this thing in here, because then when I put the helmet stand in there, it's not fighting with this little head rig thing here, but just something to know. It adjusts pretty minimally with some pretty simplistic systems here, and it's kind of a harder plastic this time. Sometimes they put a little padding up there. This time they did not. But if you look at the helmet, it's got a good gold overview. Now, I know that it's difficult to do these helmets that are kind of like monotone color like this, or not the troopers, because if you look at this overall, it looks a little toyish compared to a lot of the other Black Series helmets. Now, unfortunately, they did such a good job on the Captain Rex helmet that I have a tendency to continue to compare all of their helmets to the Captain Rex. Now, this has a little bit of the weathering here, and it's got these three-dimensional bumps and notches all over it, as you can see. You can tell here where it was kind of put together. You can see some of the cracks in the different pieces or something like that. And there's weathering up in here, and as usual, at least the visors are good sturdy plastic. When we get to the inside, I'll show you, but they have that little X piece back here to help keep it stable and together. But as we come around, you can see it's kind of toyish looking. This reminds me of the Jazzwares helmet a little bit. Now, it's not bad, it's just not as good as some of their other helmets. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a gap there. It doesn't go all the way to the helmet, but it doesn't look like it comes down on the top of the earpiece here. And as you come around, you can still see more of the weathering here. The weathering here is it's not bad. It just looks like a bunch of dirt inside the cracks, and more of this dimpling or stippling or whatever you want to call it. It's pretty much all over the helmet. And when you run your fingers over it, it's three-dimensional. And as we keep coming around, you can see, let's move. The back here has weathering. This looks like it's all one piece, and there's the interesting lines and ridges on the helmet. It's a pretty simple helmet in the show to begin with, so I mean, you're not really going to expect something super phenomenal in this plastic helmet here. Now, the one thing that I did notice about this one is the heft and the gauge of the plastic seems to be a lot thicker than the rest of the Mandalorian helmets we're getting. It's probably almost twice as thick, much sturdier, much more substantial feeling. And if we look at the top here, you can see it's got the 5 horns, the 2 large, 2 medium, and the 1 small. And if you look closely, you can see where they're actually coming out of the helmet here. So these are obviously different pieces. These up here look like they're molded to the helmet itself because there's no gap, but these two larger ones, they have the gap in between them there just a little bit. And on the inside, they've taken that same tune that they normally do with the Mandalorian helmets. As you can see, there are kinds of fake electronics and things in there. And then way up at the top, okay, yeah, those are actual pads. They're nice and soft and padded, and it just goes around here. You can see pretty much the same as always. As I promised also, I will figure out how to get the batteries in this. Hopefully I have the kind it takes, and we'll actually figure out what that welcome light feature is. Okay, so it's pretty simple. This right ear cuff just kind of pops off and you unscrew it right there, and then you put in just one AAA battery. And as you can see, it's just got some little notches. I'm gonna take it right back out, so I'm not gonna put that on. And then when you get underneath here, what it does is pretty simple, I find out. It's got a, see, they're already starting. It's got a little button right here, and it's just got some lights that come on inside there. And that's pretty much it. And they flash a little bit, and I think the instructions said that it went for about 10 minutes before it turned itself off, or you could push the button and turn them off yourself. So let's see what that looks like inside. Okay, so I've turned off all the lights on my review table here in an attempt to see if you can see through the visor what it looks like. The only light I'm getting is the ambient light from over here, so there's at least enough for you to see the helmet. So if we lift it up, looks like the lights are off. No, they're flashing. And you can, I'm not even sure if it's gonna show up on the video, to be perfectly honest with you. They're going in there. It's just, they're really, really light. Let's do it again. Yeah, you can just barely see them in there flashing if you look really closely. But there you have it, just a quick look at the new armor helmet from Black Series. It's a pretty decent helmet. I think they're struggling against the fact that it's also a pretty plain helmet. And a lot like the Moff Gideon helmet, this doesn't look as Star Wars-y as we're used to. For what it is, it's a good helmet, but unless you're just a super huge Mandalorian fan or a fan of this particular character, I don't think this is an absolute must-have for your collection. It's kind of plain. That being said, as I mentioned before, it's really thick, really sturdy, and is of a heavier gauge plastic than most of the Black Series helmets are. And so consequently, it's a good quality helmet for what you're paying for it. It's just, frankly, I don't know, maybe I'm just more of a trooper guy, just not as exciting as some of the other helmets we've gotten. And finally, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, maybe consider doing that for me. That's a great way to support my efforts here at Paul's Collectibles. And if you're already a subscriber or someone who's been watching my videos for a really long time, you already know. I greatly appreciate you. And with that, I'll see you on the next video.